I'm 16, and I've been working at the local grocery store for about a year now. It's nothing fancy, just one of those neighborhood spots where everybody seems to know each other. Since I'm still in high school, I usually work evening shifts, mostly from 6 to 10 after my classes. It's quiet most nights. Honestly, kind of boring, but what happened last Wednesday is something I don't think I'll ever be able to explain or forget. That night started out normal enough. It was around 9:15, maybe a little later, and I was just trying to kill the last 45 minutes of my shift. I was up at the front of the store, restocking canned goods, half listening to the overhead music that always plays a little too loud after dark when the door chimed. Someone had walked in. At first, I didn't really pay attention. I just caught him out of the corner of my eye. A man alone. Maybe mid-40s, average height. Pale, almost unnaturally so, like he hadn't seen sunlight in years. He wore a gray hoodie and black jeans. Nothing crazy, but somehow it felt wrong. Like the clothes didn't belong to him. The hoodie clung too tight around his throat, bunching awkwardly at the seams, and the sleeves barely reached his wrists. It looked like he had borrowed them from someone smaller, and then forced himself into them. But it wasn't the clothes that really bothered me. It was the way he moved. He didn't walk the way a normal person does. There was no sway to his arms, no bend to his knees. He moved stiffly, almost mechanically, as if he didn't fully understand how joints were supposed to work. Each step was deliberate and heavy, his feet slapping the tile with an awkward, echoing sound. It sent a cold ripple through my chest, like my body recognized that something was wrong before my brain even caught up. Still, I tried to brush it off. Maybe he was sick or hurt. Maybe he had some condition. I kept stocking cans and focused on the clock. Around 9:30, my manager, Jenna, asked if I could restock some snack foods near the back of the store before closing. I grabbed a cart, loaded it up, and headed down the long, quiet aisles. The further back I went, the quieter it got. Even the music seemed distant. The overhead lights flickered every few seconds. They'd been doing that for weeks, and the faint buzz of the fluorescent bulbs filled the silence. That's when I saw him again. At the far end of the store near the freezers. Same stiff walk, same lifeless posture. He wasn't holding anything. He wasn't even looking at the shelves. He was just standing there, as if he had no idea what he was supposed to be doing. For a second, I thought maybe he needed help. Maybe he was confused. So, trying to be polite, I kept restocking and gave him space. That's when he noticed me. He turned, not smoothly, almost like he had to remind himself how, and then he walked straight toward me. Each step was slow and pounding, like someone slamming a heavy bag onto the floor over and over. He stopped a few feet away and just stared at me. Up close, his face was even stranger. His skin wasn't just pale, it looked wrong, too smooth, too tight. It didn't move when he blinked, and even his blinking was strange, painfully slow as if he had learned it from watching someone else. And his eyes, God, his eyes were the worst part. They were set deep into his face, hollow and dull, almost like marbles stuck into a mannequin. When he spoke, his voice was flat and mechanical, cold in a way that made my skin crawl. Where is soda? The words came out stiff and broken, like he had rehearsed them phonetically. I stammered out an answer. Aisle 6, toward the back wall. He stared at me for a moment too long, like he was processing it. Then he repeated what I said, word for word, in the same monotone. Aisle 6, toward the back wall. And then he smiled, or at least he tried to. The corners of his mouth pulled up unevenly, like a puppet being forced to mimic an emotion it didn't understand. Thank you, he said, and without another word, he turned around and walked, still stiffly, down the wrong aisle. I stood there frozen for a moment, my heart pounding. Everything about that encounter felt off in a way I still can't fully describe. It was like talking to something pretending to be human, but not quite getting it right. I rushed through the rest of my stocking, barely able to focus. I just wanted to finish and go home. When I came back up to the front, I glanced around for the man, but he was gone. I asked Jenna if she'd seen him leave, but she just shrugged. No one's come through my register in the last 20 minutes, she said. I asked the other cashier, James, too. He said he remembered the guy, the one who walked weird, but he hadn't bought anything, just wandered around, and then disappeared. I clocked out as fast as I could and drove home in silence. The whole way back, I, I couldn't shake the image of his face from my mind. That fake, broken smile, that hollow stare. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined him standing outside my window, head tilted at an unnatural angle, staring up at my room. The next few days, I tried to forget about it. I told myself it was nothing, just some weird customer. But the feeling of being watched didn't go away. Everywhere I went, school, work, even home, I felt it, like something was following me, waiting. And then came Saturday night. I got home late from a friend's house, a little after midnight. My parents were asleep. The house was dark, except for the soft blue glow of the porch light leaking through the windows. I was heading upstairs when I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. Movement. At the end of the hallway, near the kitchen. I froze. There, just barely visible in the dark, was a figure. Tall. Still. Watching. I couldn't breathe. My mind screamed at me to run, to scream, but my body wouldn't move. The figure stepped forward. Into the light. Gray hoodie, black jeans, pale, unnatural skin. Him. It was him. Except now, up close, I could see the truth. His face wasn't just smooth. It was fake. A mask. A human face stretched too tightly over something else, something wrong, something that didn't move the way it should. He tilted his head, slow, mechanical, and then lifted one hand and pointed directly at me. I backed away slowly, heart hammering so hard I thought it would burst. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if running would even help. I stumbled into my bedroom and slammed the door, locked it, pushed my dresser in front of it. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Long, terrible silence. Then, the soft, deliberate sound of footsteps. Coming closer, I held my breath, tears stinging my eyes. The footsteps stopped just outside my door. And then, a knock. A slow, deliberate knock. 3 times. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying, begging for it to go away. After what felt like an eternity, I heard the footsteps retreating down the hall. I didn't sleep at all that night. When morning finally came, I checked the house. The doors were still locked. The windows were shut tight. No sign of a break-in, no sign that anything had ever been there. But I know what I saw, and sometimes late at night, I still hear those slow, heavy footsteps just outside my door, waiting. I don't know if you'll believe me. Most people don't when I tell this story, but I swear to you, this happened, and it's haunted me and my family ever since. It started a few days after a funeral on my island, and I think something followed us home. In the early 2010s, I was living on a small island in the Cook Islands, a place where everybody knows everybody, and when someone passes away, the whole village feels it. There was this old man in our village, Mr. Matayo. He lived alone in this old traditional house, the kind built from woven palms and wood, sagging in the middle but stubborn against the storms. He had no family left, no wife, no kids, no cousins, just him. When he died, it was almost quiet, sad, sure, but mostly quiet. No big mourning ceremonies. We buried him in the village graveyard under a crooked old mango tree. It was simple, fast, and just like that, he was gone, or so we thought. The next day, my cousins, my brothers, and I got curious. It's what kids do when you're bored and there's an abandoned house practically begging to be explored. So around sunset, we made our way over. The place looked even older now that it was empty. The palm leaves on the roof rattled in the breeze. The wooden door hung half open like it was expecting us. We didn't even have to break in. Just pushed it and it let out this long, aching creak that echoed across the trees. Inside, it was dusty. It smelled like old wood, sea salt, and something else. Something sweet and sour, like rotting fruit. His things were still there. Mats folded in the corner, clothes still hanging, a pot half full of hardened taro stew. It was like he had just stepped out and never came back. We didn't find anything crazy. No secret passageways, no haunted dolls, nothing like that. Just an old man's life frozen in place. After about 15 minutes, we left. Didn't take anything, barely even touched anything, but maybe that was enough. That night, just after dinner, we were sitting outside our house. The island air was heavy with the scent of wet soil and gardenias. We were just talking, laughing about stupid things when I noticed something. Out of the corner of my eye, someone was walking down the road. Now, mind you, it was close to midnight. And our street, it was barely lit by a single flickering street lamp. No one should have been out there. But this figure, He walked slowly, real slow, like every step was a struggle, and he was heading right toward Mr. Matayo's abandoned house. We all went silent, just watched. He got to the front gate, pushed it open without a sound, and stepped inside. A minute later, we saw him again, coming out, talking to himself in low, muttering tones. At first, we thought maybe it was just another old man, maybe someone checking the property, maybe. But when he turned toward us and the streetlight hit his face, my stomach dropped, because it was him. It was Mr. Matayo. The same hollow cheeks, the same cloudy eyes, the same bent posture. It was like he had never been buried. None of us moved. We couldn't. It felt like the air had thickened to something solid around us, like we were trapped in a glass jar. Mr. Matayo stared at us, unblinking. His lips moved, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. It was like he was mumbling a prayer or a curse. And then he smiled. Or at least I think he did. It was a horrible kind of smile. One that didn't reach the eyes. One that made your heart hammer against your ribs like it was trying to get out. I remember my cousin whispering, "Don't look at him. Don't look at him." Over and over again, like it was a chant. But it was too late. We had already seen him. And he had seen us. We scrambled back into the house, slamming the door shut, bolting it, locking the windows, drawing the curtains. We sat there in the living room, hearts pounding, ears straining for any sound. And then we heard it, whispering, right outside the walls. We couldn't make out the words, but the voice, it was old, dry, creaking like dead branches rubbing together in the wind. The whispering circled the house once, twice, 3 times. And then silence. A silence so deep it hurt my ears. We didn't sleep that night. We just waited for the sun to come. To come. You'd think that was the end of it, but it was only the beginning. Over the next few days, weird things started happening around the village. People said they saw a shadow standing by the graveyard at night. Dogs that never barked before started howling at nothing. One neighbor even swore she saw Mr. Matayo standing at the edge of her garden just watching before disappearing when she blinked. At our house, things got even worse. Sometimes late at night, we'd hear 3 knocks on the door. Always 3. Always at 3 a.m. But when we looked outside, nothing. Other nights, we'd hear someone walking around the house. Footsteps, slow and heavy, dragging across the wooden porch. Once, I woke up and saw a dark figure standing by the window, just staring in. I pulled the covers over my head and prayed until morning. Finally, we told one of the village elders what was happening. She listened quietly, didn't interrupt, didn't laugh. When we finished, she just nodded and said something that chilled me to the bone. "You disturbed his home. Now he doesn't know he's dead." She told us that sometimes the dead linger, especially if they have nowhere else to go. If you go into their space, you stir them up, wake them from their restless sleep, and once they see you, once they notice you, they can follow you back, like a stray dog you accidentally feed. The elder agreed to help. That night, she came over with some other villagers. They brought coconut shells filled with burning herbs, and they chanted prayers in the old language, prayers I didn't understand but felt deep in my bones. Smoke filled the house, thick and sweet and heavy. They went from room to room, circling us with it, brushing our heads with branches from the sacred tamanu tree. At the end, the elder took a piece of old cloth, whispered something into it, and buried it at the far edge of the village, far away from our homes. She told us, "Do not speak his name again. Do not call him. Let him sleep." We listened, and slowly the knocking stopped. The whispers faded. The shadow by the graveyard disappeared. Life went back to normal, or close enough, but sometimes late at night, when the wind is just right, and the moon hangs low over the water, I swear I can still hear it. 3 soft knocks, somewhere, out there in the dark, waiting. I've always believed that some places are just wrong, like the land itself remembers things it shouldn't, and it shows you if you're dumb enough to go looking. I learned that the hard way a few years ago, back when I was married and living out in a small town called Morgan Hill, California. Or maybe it was Gilroy. Sometimes I wonder if even that part was real. What I experienced on that trail, and what followed me afterward, still makes me question my sanity. If you think you can explain it, be my guest. All I know is, something out there didn't want to be forgotten. It started harmless enough. One boring afternoon, my then wife, let's call her B, suggested we go for a walk. Morgan Hill, or Gilroy, it blurs together now, had all these quiet little trails cutting through the hills. Oak trees, dry grass, the smell of earth warming under the California sun. We didn't plan to go far, just stretch our legs, maybe watch the sunset. We weren't expecting anything. Strange. The trail curved and dipped between the trees. It felt a little too quiet. You know when the world just feels empty? Like the birds stopped singing and even the wind is holding its breath? That's when we saw it. Tucked into a grove just off the path was this old sagging house, 2 stories tall, boarded windows, peeling white paint, the kind of place you might drive past and swear was haunted just by the way it leaned toward you. I remember laughing a little, nudging B. "Come on," I said, "we gotta check it out." She shook her head, uneasy. She wasn't into that paranormal stuff like I was. But she followed because back then she trusted me. Maybe she shouldn't have. The front door hung loose on its hinges. Inside, the air smelled wrong. Rotten eggs, wet dog, something sour and metallic, like blood left out too long. The floor creaked under my feet as I stepped in. Wallpaper peeled from the walls in long, yellowed strips. Every corner seemed to twitch in the corner of my eye, shadows slithering just out of sight. B refused to come inside. She stayed by the front steps, arms crossed tight over her chest. "You're gonna fall through the floor," she called after me. I waved her off and climbed the staircase, each step groaning under my weight. That's when I heard it, a sharp, tearing scream, B's voice from outside. I bolted back down, nearly falling through a loose step, heart hammering in my chest. She was standing frozen at the bottom of the steps, face pale as paper. "What happened?" I gasped. She pointed at the house, her finger shaking. "When you went upstairs, I saw someone," she whispered. "There was a man, in the window, watching you." I froze. "What did he look like?" Her voice trembled. "He was old, pale, fat. He had these tiny little glasses, white hair slicked back, like..." She paused, searching. "Like the Penguin from Batman, only worse." I swallowed hard. Even in the dimming light, I could see she wasn't joking. I tried to laugh it off, told her it was probably just shadows or a trick of the light, but something inside me was starting to curdle. I turned back toward the doorway, and that's when I saw him, standing at the top of the stairs, exactly as B had described. He turned slowly, almost casually, to face me. His eyes were milky and empty, as if they had been looking at nothing for a very, very long time. And then he vanished. Not like he ran, not like he ducked out of view. He just evaporated, like smoke blown out by the wind. I felt my knees buckle. A primal animal terror crawled up my spine. I didn't say a word. I grabbed B's hand and we ran. Ran until our lungs burned and the trail disappeared behind us. You'd think that would be the end of it. But humans are stupid, especially me. A couple of days later, curiosity started eating at me. Maybe it had been some squatter. Maybe our eyes had played tricks. Maybe. B didn't want to go back. I talked her into it anyway. We returned to the trail around mid-afternoon when the sun was still high and every shadow looked harmless. But when we reached the clearing where the house had been, we stopped dead because the house wasn't abandoned anymore. It was renovated, perfectly renovated. The paint was fresh, gleaming white. The windows were whole and sparkling. A green lawn stretched out in front and children's toys littered the porch. A smiling family, a man, woman, and 2 little girls, stood outside, waving like they'd been expecting us. I remember glancing at B, who looked just as stunned as I felt. We had seen that place. We had smelled the rot. We had seen that man. And now, it was like it had never happened. The family seemed normal enough, friendly, inviting. They offered us a tour without hesitation. Inside, the house was immaculate. Warm, lived in, no trace of mold, no rotting smell, no sagging floorboards. Pictures hung neatly along the walls. Furniture gleamed in the golden afternoon light. I asked, as casually as I could, how long they'd lived there. The father smiled and said, "Oh, just moved in last month." B squeezed my hand so tight my fingers tingled. We made polite excuses and left after a few minutes. Neither of us said anything on the way home. We didn't need to. We both knew something was wrong. A week later, I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to see it again. This time we went earlier. No sunset. No weird lighting tricks. But when we got there, there was nothing. No house, no family, no lawn, just a patch of bare, dry earth and dead grass, as if nothing had ever been built there. There weren't even tire tracks or footprints or any sign of construction, just emptiness. And in that emptiness, I swear I heard something, a low, wet breathing sound just behind me, close enough to feel the warmth of it brush the back of my neck. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. B grabbed my arm and we sprinted back to the car without looking back. I moved away from Morgan Hill not long after that. The marriage didn't last. Sometimes I wonder if what happened on that trail had something to do with it. We never really talked about it again. Some things you don't talk about if you want to stay sane. But sometimes late at night I dream about that house. Sometimes when I'm walking alone in a new town, I'll catch a glimpse of it again, just out of the corner of my eye. Perfect. Gleaming. White. Waiting. If you ever find yourself walking a lonely trail outside Morgan Hill or Gilroy, and you see a house where there shouldn't be one, keep walking. Because once you step through that door, you might never really leave.